Hey everybody, welcome to another Monday at 2 p.m. live, but today is going to be a really special one because we are going to be talking about opening up the portal to your destiny. For those of you guys who have never met me before, my name is Danielle Massi. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, master shadow worker, and also a guide. That's really what I've been put on this earth to do. And so I'm really excited to be sharing this with you all today. I decided I'm going to play a little music in the background, which I don't normally do, but I'm just feeling the vibes. So let me know what you guys think about that. And then I want to get right into it because this one is going to be loaded. I'm going to be giving you guys a really jam-packed training all about how to open portals and how shadow work is the key to doing that. So let's just dive right in. Say hi in the comments as you pop in so that I know that you're here. Hey guys, I'm so excited for y'all to join. Got Instagram and Facebook going at the same time. So just chat with me and let me know how all of this resonates. So let's start with this. The version of you that you desire already exists. Just let that sink in for a second. The version of you that you desire already exists. It's out there in the quantum, waiting for you to grab hold of it. And that can be kind of intimidating for a lot of people because we tend to fall into this victim stance very often. So many of us from the time that we're young have been taught that the world is hard and that things aren't going to be easy and you're gonna have to struggle and claw your way to the top. And it's just going to be a journey. And when we're given that language, when we're given that thought process about what success means and how to get there, it really puts us into this belief that things are out of our reach, that we're never going to achieve what it is that we want to achieve. So to grasp the idea that the version of you that already exists, the version of you that you desire is right there. It's already existing. It's something that you can reach onto and pull closer and really just become that version of yourself. That can be hard to understand. And so I'm going to tell you all about the science behind that, how that happens, and how to actually create that portal to access that version of you so that you can be them now. Here's the science. I'm really going to dumb this down and water it down just to make it so digestible that it doesn't feel as hard. Everything is energy, down to the cells in our body, which are atoms, even smaller than that, down to the smaller particles that make up the atoms. Everything is energy. And so we barely even exist. We are just like floating energy in a space on a rock that is also just energy. And with this energy comes infinite possibilities because energy is also potential. And there are different potentials branching out into every direction. All of these potentials are essentially versions of you, timelines that you can hop onto if you so choose. All of this energy existing in the world, just waiting for you to grasp onto it. And so as you go about your life, as you go about your day, as you go about your year, everything that you do is based in a choice to either stay on the path that you're currently on and ascribe to this timeline and use your energy to keep propelling you forward along the path, or to jump ship and jump onto a different timeline, a different pathway. And it really is as simple as making a choice. When we make that choice, what happens is we change the quantum field. We align with energy that exists vibrationally somewhere else. And as we alter that vibrational frequency, we align with a different timeline and our life starts to look different. And it happens very quickly. This is as easy as something like what you're eating for breakfast, or are you going to choose to beat yourself up today? Or are you going to quit that job that you hate? When we make these decisions day in and day out, what we're choosing is to stay on our current timeline or to alter timelines and choose another. And this is something that we do every moment of every day, but some decisions obviously are going to have more impact. Some are going to take us much further than others. Like if you were to say, choose to quit that job, that just isn't really suited for you. And instead choose to do something that fills you up and brings you joy. That is a huge shift vibrationally, a huge shift in terms of your frequency. And so the energy that would need to happen to make that happen, it just can't be where you are right now. You would have to move and shift onto a separate timeline. This is really important because this is how manifesting happens. When you manifest, all you're doing is you're seeing that higher timeline that you want to be on, this desired version of yourself. And you're aligning your energy with it by thinking like it's already happened and feeling into the emotions of what it would be like if it already happened. You're releasing your attachment to the lower vibrational things that are stopping you from aligning to that higher timeline. And when you do that so often, the brain accommodates that because the brain cannot tell the difference between real or imagined. Think about if you've ever watched a TV show like Tosh.0, where you watch someone get hurt and your whole body goes, ooh, like you cringe internally. It's because your brain cannot tell the difference between real and imagined. And the same thing goes for manifesting. If you believe yourself to be wildly successful and people are going to really do well with your healing, they're going to be so helped by what it is that you do, what happens is you start to create that reality for yourself and you manifest this new reality. Essentially what you do is you quantum leap into a different timeline. And one way to do it is to do just like I said. We've talked about manifesting before. If you guys haven't seen my talk about it, I did a whole manifesting talk just a few weeks ago that you should definitely check out. But the piece that I always find that everybody misses is shadow work, because your shadow can hold you back a lot. If everybody could just manifest their reality and quantum leap into a different timeline, all of us would be doing it constantly. We would just be living the lives of our dreams and nobody would ever deviate from that, because why would you? We would all be millionaires. We would all be having the best lives ever. We would all be doing what we want to do. But that's not always the way that it goes, because of a certain frequency within your mind that stops you from going through with those things. And so here's what's happening internally inside your mind and your body to stop you from quantum leaping. What happens is we all have this internal regulation system. It's sort of like an air conditioner, right? Air conditioners kick on when the warmth is too much and they kick off when it's too cold. They're always regulating. And so it gets a little bit above the temperature you want, it gets a little bit below the temperature that you want, and it's always just kind of floating around the area that you set. So if you set your house to 72 degrees, it'll get to 73, it'll get to 70, it'll always be kind of in that range, but it stays at 72. Your body and your mind do exactly the same thing. What happens is that your brain is wired around the idea that it wants to remain at homeostasis. It wants that balance, to feel safe, to feel secure, to keep things moving in the direction that they always have. And so every experience that you have, if it deviates a little bit above or below that line of normalcy, the brain does what it can to bring it back to that homeostasis, to keep it really nice and even. And so if you have an experience that feels too exciting, it finds a way to bring it down. If you have an experience that feels too intense, it finds a way to bring it back up. Trying to just mitigate the highs and lows of your life to keep things more even. Obviously, there are some cases where it is really high and is really low, but you'll find yourself internally trying to find a way to bring it back to even, to make yourself feel safe and feel calm. You'll talk yourself out of the exciting thing, like it can't really be that, it's too good to be true, it's too much. Or if it was really bad, it's like, it's okay, chin up, we gotta find our way back to it. We keep ourselves regulated. The way that that looks internally without you being aware of it is there is a subconscious feedback loop keeping you in check. Every experience that you have influences the emotions that you create in the brain, which sends a message down to the body about how to respond, which sends a message back up in the form of a thought through the enteric nervous system, and that thought completes the loop by informing your next experience. And this loop is how we always remain the same. Like I said before, it takes an enormous amount of energy to shift timelines, to quantum leap, because the energy of where you want to go is so much higher vibrationally than where you are right now. That takes an insane amount of effort from the brain, the body, and your aura in order to match that. It's easier if you just stay the same. And so your body and your mind will actually fight you to stay here. This is why when you're trying to lose weight, your body doesn't want to let the weight go. Or when you're trying to learn something new, the brain doesn't want to take on the information. It makes it feel like it's hard to remember. It's easier to remain in homeostasis. It's easier to just ride those tiny little waves and keep everything even. This continues on and on throughout our lives. And what happens is after 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years, you eventually get to a point where homeostasis is so set that the deviations are even smaller than they were before. There's less of a wave that you're riding. And so if you want to break free of that, you have to be extremely intentional about how you are going to break out of this pattern in order to manifest that life of your dreams. This is where shadow work comes in. Because if you want to quantum leap from this timeline that you're currently on to a new one, you have to create a portal. And so if you guys have one, grab a piece of paper and a pen. And if you don't, pull up the notes section of your phone or just make a mental note to remind yourself of this later. But for a minute, just think about where you are right now. What does your life look like? What do you feel like in your body right now? What is it that you desire that you feel like is so far out of your reach that you can't get to it even though you really want to? Start to take inventory of these things. Literally write them down. See them on a piece of paper in front of you. Hold them in front of you. And when you have them and you see them, think about the vibration that it takes to carry those things. How does it feel? It might feel like denser energy, heavier energy. Like I have a lot of work to do. And I have a lot of responsibilities. And I have bills that I have to pay. And all these things are just piling on top of each other and creating density. Now think about the version of your life that you want to achieve. Maybe it's having so much money that you don't have to worry about money anymore. And it doesn't have to be an exorbitant amount, just enough to pay your bills, make you feel like you have freedom, just enough to feel like you're good. How does that feel energetically? What job will you have when you're doing that? Is it work that lights you up? Is it something that makes you feel fulfilled? How are you spending your days in this alternate reality? Are you exercising and eating healthy? Do you have the time to do that sort of stuff? Bubble baths in front of your enormous window looking out at nature because you can. Whatever it is, think about it and think about the weight of those things. They might feel a little bit more free, a little bit lighter. When that happens, it means that the energy itself is of a higher frequency because the wavelength that exists for those higher frequencies is more wavy. The denser energies look different. If you are going to ascribe to those higher energies, you have to start changing your own energy to match it. And shadow work. Shadow is how you're going to get there. Your shadow is just another term for the unconscious mind. And the unconscious mind is every single thing that you are repressing. When we repress, it just means that we're hiding things from ourselves, and it's not something that we're doing purposefully. It's something that happens very naturally. It is literally a coping mechanism of the brain. And so every minute of every day, as you're taking in information, the brain sorts this information to decide what to do with it. And when something is heavy or scary or hard, if the brain doesn't think that you can handle it, what it does is it sends that stuff into this unconscious mind. It's like the junk closet of the brain. And when you have all that stuff weighing you down, it's like feeling like you're suffocating, except you don't actually know that you're feeling that or that you're going through that or what triggered it because it's unconscious. You're not aware of it. And so if you were dropped as a child, as a baby, that might be in the unconscious mind. If you heard your parents fighting all the time when you were 3, that exists within the unconscious mind. If you had money troubles when you were young and you didn't know directly, but you felt the repercussions of that as a child, that lives in the unconscious mind. And all of this stuff is like an enormous weight that you're trying to carry. Now think about that frequency, right? If you are carrying all that stuff, it is like you are carrying around a big, heavy weight that you cannot drop. And here you are trying to manifest, trying to reach amazing heights and have a life of ease and have things just work so perfectly for yourself, thinking, I know what it is that I want. I know how to get there. I know what steps I want to take, but you're forgetting about the fact that you have this 40-pound ankle weight weighing you down. You can't manifest with all that shadow. It's impossible. what you need to do is you need to learn how to release the shadow. And when you release that shadow, then you can actually reach that higher vibration pretty easily because the shift isn't as big. You're moving from here to here instead of starting down really low. And that makes all the difference. Creating a portal, in essence, is just the idea that you are making an easy access from one place to another so that you can easily move and shift into a different physical location or mental space or emotional place, whatever it is that it means to you. And the best way to make that portal is by doing your shadow work, to release all that weight that you are carrying around that is stopping you from being able to easily ascend. I want to address some of the questions that are coming through. So one of the questions I see here is, what is the difference between a soul retrieval and a regression? And this is a really good question because past life regressions and soul retrievals are both a part of shadow work. So let me break down what they both are, and then that'll help you to see what the difference is between the two. So we all have a soul, and that soul over time, depending on what your soul has experienced, can actually fragment and split itself up into parts. And those parts can be left in different places. Like they could be stuck to past lives that you've had, or they can be with another person. Like if you've had a horrible breakup with your true love and you wish you were still with them, your soul will actually keep a fragment of itself with them. That way you're still together. A soul retrieval is the process of going and collecting those fragments back, pulling all those fragments together so that you can have your soul be one once more. A past life regression, on the other hand, is when we go into a past life to understand the trauma that we inherited from that time. It's like directly the weight that's carrying us down. And so if you were to go back into a time where you saw your mother die before your eyes, and you understand that your relationship with your mom now is very codependent, that could be the reason why. It's like a fear of losing them. It becomes an attachment issue. And that weight is stopping you from being able to live out your soul's purpose because you feel so stuck to this other human being because you're afraid to let them go out of fear that you don't actually go and do the things that you want to do. That's the difference between the two. So hopefully that makes sense for you. And then, great job breaking it down. You're welcome. If you guys have more questions about that, I know it's a big one. Ask away and let me know what you think. Yeah, here's the last piece that I want to bring to you guys during this training because this is really important for me. And this training was all about opening up a portal to access other potentials for yourself, quantum realities that exist, in order to access your destiny. And I've been thinking about destiny and legacy a whole lot recently, especially because a few years ago I was diagnosed with cancer and had to go through treatment, and it made me think about what I was leaving behind. What is the work that I'm meant to do in this world? Within your shadow, within your unconscious mind, is also your destiny. And it feels like a weird place for it to be, right? It feels like one of those things that if you were thinking more about light work, it would be something that you would find out after doing a bunch of Reiki sessions and Kundalini yoga, that you'd have this aha moment of this is what I'm meant to do. But typically it is actually through shadow that people find their destiny. What happens is you experience those lower moments in your life. You see those lower vibrational times, those lower frequency things that are weighing you down and carrying you down. And what you realize through all of them is that there's a similar pattern. There's a thread that ties them all together. And when you find that thread, you'll start to learn a lot about who you are and why you're here. This happens through every single round of my group program, Create Your Light Academy, where once we start to take all these pieces of the puzzle and line them up and see this bigger picture as we zoom out, we have these aha moments of, oh, I'm here because I'm meant to do X, Y, or Z. Our destiny is so encoded within our shadow because our shadow carries all the unconscious moments of our lives, including past lives, including your childhood, the things that trigger you, the things that make you feel uncomfortable. They make you feel those things for a reason, because you're meant to learn more about how to actually deal with those moments. And when you do, it starts to help you uncover your purpose. I tend to think about our soul's purpose in a few different lights. And I think I did a video on this maybe about a month and a half ago on different archetypes that a lot of light workers find themselves falling into in terms of their soul's purpose and their destiny. A couple of them are the people who are way showers, the ones who are kind of meant to pave the pathway for others to follow. Some are just meant to hold the light. So they really are just like bringing up the vibration of the planet for everybody else to make things easier and more able to navigate through. All these different archetypes that exist, they can be exposed when you do your shadow work. Because what'll happen as you do your shadow work is you'll see moments from your childhood that your spirit guides want you to see. They're not going to drop you into everything. You can't see every trauma you've ever incurred. There's just too big of a volume to see. I mean, you've been living for however many years you're alive. I'll use my age. I'm in my mid-30s. So for 30-something years, I've incurred a lot of trauma. If I tried to see every moment of that, I'd have to live another 30 years to see it all. Instead, what happens is your spirit guides direct you to the moments that are going to teach you the most about yourself. And so you'll drop into the childhood moment where you felt inadequate. You'll drop into the childhood moment where you felt fear around showing up and having a loud voice and being respected or needing to be perfect. And when you see these moments and you see them over and over again, echoed throughout your childhood, throughout your relationships, throughout your past lives, it's easy to weave the thread and go, oh gosh, every single time I shine my light, every single time I stand in my power, I find the people around me getting intimidated and challenging me and making me feel small. It means that you are meant to do that. It means that that has always been your purpose, but you've been given the opportunity to really set a boundary around it. And when you see it happen in past lives, like maybe you dropped into a past life in Greece where you were a politician and you did that, and it went really, really well for you or really poorly, it's just more reinforcement of this is the work that I'm meant to do, because you'll see it over and over and over again. Even in the roles that we choose in this life, the relationships you fall into, the job you fall into, the career that you have, they're so telling about what it is that you're meant to do. Like teachers, for instance, teachers are really way showers. They're meant to do the work first, and then other people are going to follow. But maybe the challenge in this life is that being a teacher in a really broad way feels terrifying, but doing it in a classroom feels safe. And so I find myself in a classroom. I find myself with a small group of people, and I'm challenged constantly on it to see if I can grow and ascend past it. Can I release my shadow to ascend to those higher frequencies? Someone asked the question, can you please go over once more how to raise our frequency to create that portal? Absolutely. So for anybody who joined us a little bit late, I'm just going to give a really basic breakdown of energies once more. Everything carries energy. Everything has a frequency. And so if everything carries a frequency, it means that you yourself carry a frequency. And at different points throughout your life, your frequency is a little bit higher or a little bit lower, but generally you have a homeostasis. You have this sort of mid-level area where you like to sit because it feels comfortable, because it feels like what's normal. And so if you were to have something happen that would boost your frequency a lot, most often what happens is you fall back to normal eventually, because that feels too scary. It's hard to maintain that higher level. It's hard to really let yourself go and be in that higher space, mostly because your body, your mind, and your spirit feel fear around moving into the unknown. This pathway that you're currently on, whatever it is, this timeline that you're currently on, it feels safe. You have it mapped out ahead of you. I actually think about this a lot with relationships, because when I used to work as a couples therapist, what would happen more often than not is if a couple broke up, they would be more upset about the loss of the future reality they'd envisioned for themselves than they would about the loss of the relationship. It might take them a few weeks to see that. But what we would find is that they mourned for the loss of being able to get married when they thought they were going to, or have kids when they thought they were going to, or start the career first, because now the timeline was thrown off. And that would feel very jarring. It would feel scary, because that mapped out version of reality no longer exists. And the body, mind, and spirit are terrified of the unknown. It is very scary to be in the unknown. And so your body, mind, and spirit will do everything that they can to stay on this path. the easiest way that I've found to really shift onto a higher frequency instead of being stuck where you are is to deal with the stuff that brings you back down. All the weights that are carrying you down, or the sludge that is just pulling you back down. And that is your shadow. Shadow, by definition, is the unconscious mind, which is made up of repressed memories and trauma. And those things carry a really dense frequency. It's sort of like trying to fly with weights on your ankles, or trying to run when you're running through sludge. There's like stuff kind of pulling you back down. And so if you were to do your shadow work, what happens is you want to fly and you just take off. Or you want to run and you just go. There's no going back at that point. And you know what's funny about it is our body's really like that homeostasis, and our mind's really like that homeostasis. But if you do your shadow work and you release those things and you don't feel fear or those intense emotions about it anymore, your body, mind, and spirit stop fearing the unknown. They start becoming really comfortable with it because the known was lower density and the unknown is higher frequency. So it's easy to create a portal and shift. So the answer to the question that I just took way too long to answer is shadow work is how you create the portal. When you do your shadow work, as you release all that heavy, dense weight that you're carrying, you open up possibilities because you're not carrying those lower frequencies anymore. You're already vibrating higher. So if we go back to that silly analogy that I had about an air conditioner and wanting the house to kind of be around 72 degrees, if you decide now that you want the house to be at like 68 degrees, you want it to be a little bit colder, what happens is you have to first go into the heat and deal with that and get rid of some of the heat-bearing things in your house and decide to set the dial a little bit to that lower temperature to 68. And if you get rid of the stuff in your house that creates heat and you set the dial to a different frequency, it'll match that. And now it'll be 68 degrees in your house, and your highs and lows will operate around that 68 number instead of around the 72. And so you can just keep inching up that way. So it's a combination of things: shadow work for the one, and then manifestation for the other, which I did a whole long video about how to manifest perfectly by making sure that you are holding the frequency of where it is that you want to go, seeing it so clearly. Because remember, the brain cannot tell the difference between the real and the imagined. And when you hold that frequency and you envision that future and it becomes something that you fixate on in a healthy way, day in and day out, you can shift very easily as long as that weight isn't holding you back. That is the key. That's the thing that nobody ever mentions, but the one thing that I see time and time again, pulling people back down, making them frustrated, like, how come I can't quantum leap? How come I can't manifest my reality? It's because you have to do your shadow work. And so I just made doing your shadow work easier than ever, because today, officially available on Amazon, is my Shadow Seeker's Journal. This is a shadow work journal that is full of 80 pages worth of shadow work prompts so that you can do your shadow work on your own. Take it at your own pace. Get rid of all the heavy density that's weighing you down. Each one of these questions in here will prompt something new within you. It'll make you think about who you are and why you're here, and help you to release the weight that is holding you back. And as you do it, that big, dense, heavy shadow that you are carrying will melt away to nothing. And from there, the sky is the limit. If you guys want a copy of the Shadow Seeker's Journal, it's only $15. It's on Amazon. You can get the link for it in my Instagram bio. And for everybody on Facebook, I'll put it in the comments underneath this. It is going to change your life. I've been dying to put this out for so long, because shadow work to me is just the most transformative thing that you can do for yourself, bar none. If you talk to any person who is really big in any field, one of the things that they mention doing for themselves is shadow work, because it shifts your life. It changes who you are as a person. It changes your frequency. And now begins your journey to do it too. So I love you guys. Thank you so much for joining in for this. I have a little announcement that's going to come to you next week on Monday. So if this is your first time joining live, I do this every single week on Mondays at 2 p.m. And I'm going to be making the announcement next Monday at 2 p.m. I'm so excited for you guys to be able to pick up this journal. If you have any questions about it, just let me know. Or any questions about this training, how to open portals, how to quantum leap, I'm here for you guys every step of the way. I love you all, and I hope you have an amazing Monday. Bye, everybody.